At 19, my buddy Chris, who was always up for a good time, dropped by our basement like he usually did in the summer. I can still picture him holding a Coke bottle, and I was munching on some Wendy's when he suggested we go explore that eerie graveyard on the other side of town. I thought it was the weirdest idea, and I told him so. But since we didn't have school the next day and I knew exactly which meant, I decided, why not? It's not really like a typical cemetery. I'm not sure if you can even call it that. Picture a small piece of land with around 100 tombstones scattered across it. These tombstones have an ancient look to them. Whenever we walk by, it's obvious that no one has visited in years. This place likely goes way back in time, and it feels extra eerie because it's enclosed by a spooky Gothic metal fence. On two sides, there are dense woods, on another side, there's a road, and on the last side, there's this old abandoned building. The whole atmosphere is just creepy and unsettling. Chris convinced me to join him, and even though the day was overcast and tinted in red, it somehow added to the atmosphere. Chris parked his Honda by the roadside. I suggested he park further ahead to avoid drawing attention. Since the road had minimal traffic, it would seem suspicious if we lingered. Chris drove a bit down the road, and we walked through the woods to reach the small cemetery without being noticed by any potential passers-by. Getting over the fence in the woods was no big deal. It was just a short one, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. Chris was the one really into this, so he led the way. We walked through the spooky little area and checked out the old tombstones. They all looked like they were from the 1800s, and some of the writing on them was impossible to read now. I know it might sound silly and like a movie, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me the whole time. I started glancing around the nearby woods. I told Chris how freaky it felt. "Yeah, I get it," he said. Feeling like someone was watching me, I glanced at the old building beside the cemetery and spotted a window. In that instant, I thought I saw a person standing there despite the foggy and dirty glass. They quickly either ducked or walked away. I informed Chris that we were being observed from that building, and he turned to check it out too. He decided to search for the entrance, but I urged him not to. While he explored around the building, I stayed near the tombstone he was examining. Eventually, he discovered a way inside. He told me to come to him, but I stayed where I was. Suddenly, I heard a loud cracking sound. I turned to see an older man, maybe around 55, with gray hair and a black raincoat. I think he was wearing jeans and had a mustache, but I didn't get a clear look. Then he opened his mouth and screamed. Not just yelled, but screamed, "Get out!" It was so loud that I thought I saw birds fly away in surprise. Just like that, I began to feel dizzy and everything went dark. I woke up and found myself being pulled through the woods. I got scared, thinking I was getting kidnapped. But when I looked around, it was just Chris. He seemed really worried about something. Without explaining much, he urged me to follow him and run back to the car. I didn't hesitate and ran with him. As we dashed through the woods, I heard something trailing us. When I glanced back, I saw someone following us, so I sped up even more. We reached his Honda, and he quickly shifted into drive before the car fully started. While Chris explored the abandoned building, he discovered a strange symbol called the Sigil of Bafflement, painted on the wooden floor, which is associated with Satan. Surrounding it were eerie dolls with button eyes. He couldn't explore further as he heard an old man screaming outside. Rushing to me, Chris found me unconscious on the floor, and the old man was approaching slowly. He pulled me away from danger and into the nearby woods, literally picking me up and tossing me over a fence to safety. Upon regaining consciousness, we ran away. It was my first time fainting, and the bizarre setting of a graveyard with a satanic ritual building nearby added to the mysteriousness of the situation.